Call Me Carson is a popular comedic gaming personality with well over 3 million subscribers on YouTube. He's also a very popular Twitch streamer with over 1 million followers to his name. Call Me Carson rose to fame on YouTube thanks to his unique brand of commentary videos in which he and his circle of friends, which includes YouTubers like JSchlatt, Josh, and Ted Navision, would either react to weird things that they stumbled across on the internet or pull amusing pranks, such as invading the Discord servers of random people. What made him such an appealing content creator wasn't just his great sense of humor, but his wholesome, down-to-earth demeanor as well. He also had great chemistry with each of his friends, each of whom are great entertainers in their own right, with distinct personalities that often clashed with one another in hilarious fashion.
Which one?
It's breakfast.
I don't go to McDonald's.
I know.
No!
You don't know, Mason. Have you never been to a McDonald's before?
You creatures.
Oh, is this worth it?
Look at this
Oh.
Are you really gonna do this?
person. You're a piece of shit. Whoever gave him money deserves a death penalty, I swear to God.
Throughout his 8 years of being on YouTube, Call Me Carson has been involved in his fair share of internet drama. For the longest time, his most infamous controversy was, without a doubt, the Caterino cheating scandal that occurred in March of 2020, wherein Carson's girlfriend, Kate, also known as Caterino, was revealed to have been cheating on him with his good friend and fellow commentator Fitz. Not only that, but she had allegedly also been dating several other men at the same time. Without getting into specifics, the situation was a giant mess, and Carson ended up having to take a 1-month break from the internet as the drama took a huge toll on his mental health. On April 15th, he posted a twitlonger in which he apologized to Kate and Fitz for airing their dirty laundry in public and thanked his fans for their support. He returned to YouTube in late April and has been consistently putting out content ever since. Then, on January 4th, 2021, a drama YouTuber named Keemstar uploaded an 11-minute episode of his new show Drama Alert, in which he interviewed 2 of Carson's former friends, Noah Hugbox and Travis. In the interview, the both of them alleged that Carson had sexted underage female fans back in early 2019. These allegations would immediately be bolstered when, later that day, one of the supposed victims, Sam, came forward on Twitter and claimed that Carson was both a pedophile and a child groomer who had begun a sexual relationship with her in April of 2019 when she was 17 years old. In her long Twitter thread, Sam provided screenshots of these sexually explicit conversations that she and Carson had with each other. A few of their messages even referenced the exchanging of nudes. The very next day, Keemstar tweeted out that a second girl had come forward with allegations against Call Me Carson. This person's name was Copycat, and she claimed that her relationship with Carson began in May of 2019, when she was also 17, after he shared her graduation photo on his Instagram account. When Keemstar asked if Carson had exchanged nudes with her, she told him, quote, "Yes, on Snapchat." On the same day, Jocko, one of Carson's friends, uploaded a video to Twitter in which he shared screenshots of Carson coming clean about the allegations to members of his Discord server. The confession went as follows, quote, "Long story short, when I was 19, I sexted a couple of viewers who were 17. Extremely regrettable and incredibly embarrassing, felt guilty since. Apologized to them both and resolved it privately last year, then Keem got a hold of it like 2 days ago." Immediately after these allegations came to light, the internet went into a frenzy. Everyone on Twitter assumed the absolute worst of Call Me Carson, and ran with the narrative that he was a pedophile who used his fame as a popular content creator to groom minors. Many of his friends immediately cut ties with him and either uploaded YouTube videos or posted statements on Twitter talking about how disgusted they were at Carson's actions. Several third-party commentary channels also picked up the story, many of them taking the side of the accusers and further perpetuating the claims made against Carson. YouTubers who had collaborated with Carson in the past started to delete videos of theirs that featured him, and one of his former friends came out of the woodworks and uploaded a video in which he brought to light Carson's allegedly shitty behavior towards him. As of the making of this video, Carson has not made an official response to these allegations outside of posting the aforementioned confession on his Discord server. In fact, he has shut down both his Discord server and his subreddit, and has gone dead silent over the past month. The controversy has cost Carson over 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, as well as thousands of followers on Twitch, and has shattered his reputation. So where does that leave me? What do I think about this situation? Well, as controversial as this will probably be to hear, I believe that the accusations which were thrown at Call Me Carson are false, and that Carson did nothing wrong. To prove why, I'm going to debunk every argument made against Carson and expose the glaring inconsistencies in the accounts being given by both his accusers and his former friends. First, I'm going to respond to Keemstar's initial video on the situation, and then I'll respond to Salmon Copycat's allegations. Next, I'll tackle each of the most relevant responses to this drama, namely the statement put out by Slimesicle, as well as the videos made by JStrat, Rebzilla, and the narrator. Finally, I'll respond to some miscellaneous accusations that have also been made against Carson. For the sake of honesty, I will admit that I do enjoy Call Me Carson's content. I'm not subscribed to him, but I find him extremely entertaining. I understand that this makes me a tad biased when it comes to addressing these allegations, but rest assured that I'm not just some brain-dead fanboy who's ignoring evidence in order to defend his favorite YouTuber at all costs. I genuinely don't believe that the allegations against Carson hold any water, and it upsets me that he's in danger of losing his career over them. Plus, I went after ProJared when the allegations against him first came out, only for those allegations to be disproven several months later, and I'll be damned if I let myself be swayed by the Twitter mob again. So sit back and relax, because I'm going to answer one very important question.
We are at war!
The first drama alert video on Call Me Carson is a giant mess. The interview that Keemstar conducts with Noah Hugbox and Travis, who are two of Carson's former friends that were also former members of Carson's YouTube group channel Lunch Club, suffers from many glaring issues that hinder my ability to take the claims put forth by them seriously. For one, Noah claims that Carson called him up one day in March and came clean about sexting underage female fans. When Keemstar asks him if Carson disclosed the age of the girls involved, Noah said that he didn't.
I'm going to stick to the facts here, which was that one day in March, he called me shortly before he told Travis. Everybody was up in LA and he told most of them face to face, but he called me. And I picked up the phone, and he was basically like, I have to tell you something. And then he told me that he did underage girls, and I think that he said that they were fans. And that was what I was told.
Did he tell you how old they were?
At the time, no.
Keep that little piece of information in mind, because what Noah says here is factually incorrect. Noah goes on to say that he didn't come out with this sooner because he was scared of Carson suing him.
How did you guys deal with this situation from March until now?
Pretty much by doing absolutely nothing, because I just didn't want to involve myself in really anything that would be tied to this. I knew that someday it was going to come out, and I don't know, I feel like I dropped a few hints about it just so that people, when it did come out, would know that I wished that I could have talked about it, and I didn't want my life to be ruined by a lawsuit.
Of all the reasons that someone could give for not coming out with these allegations sooner, I didn't want to get sued is a very strange one. Typically, if Carson is actually guilty of the things he's accused of, and you have ample evidence to prove your case, then you wouldn't need to worry about being sued for anything. All you did was tell people the truth. However, if the claims you're making are categorically false, and you have no evidence to back them up, then yes, you should be very worried about Carson suing you. Coincidentally, guess what Noah admits to in this very interview?
I understand the situation that everyone has been put into, but at the end of the day, you guys do kind of have proof, right?
I mean, yeah, that he told all of us at the same time. I mean, I'm sure that when this is posted, none of them are going to deny that this is the truth because, I mean, they were there. I don't think they have any real reason to lie.
That statement right there is indicative of the major issue with this drama alert video. Neither Noah, Travis, nor Keemstar provide definitive proof of Carson's alleged behavior. As if that wasn't bad enough, at the beginning of this video, Keemstar refers to Noah and Travis as Carson's close friends.
I talked to some of his close friends explaining like, hey, this needs to come out. Like, people need to know about this. I talked to some of his close friends. However, not only had Lunch Club disbanded long before Keemstar ever conducted this interview, but Travis himself admits that he hasn't actually talked to Carson in ages. Does anyone know if Carson is still doing this with his fans?
No idea.
Nope, I just have no idea. I haven't talked to him in so long.
Even worse, the day after the initial drama alert video went up, Noah called into a live stream that was hosted by Augie RFC, a commentary YouTuber, and said that he didn't even consider Carson a friend of his.
If my friend is telling me he's sexing girls or whatever, I'm gonna be like, who? And what are the ages or whatever? So
Honestly, well, here's the thing: is if I'm being real with you, Carson was not my friend. Like that is not like the.
but y'all had a group together, right?
Yeah.
But it was purely business.
Pretty much. I mean, I live with the guy, and yeah, no, I wouldn't consider him my friend. I don't think that if you had asked me at any point in that period, I would have really considered him my friend.
So not only have neither Noah nor Travis talked to Carson in a while, but Noah doesn't even view Carson as a friend? That's hilarious. Keemstar could have called these two guys associates of Carson, or even Carson's former friends, but he instead chose to refer to them as Carson's close friends. I wonder why. Was it to lend more credibility to their claims without having to provide any evidence for them? Or was it an honest slip-up made by a man who didn't bother to do any basic research into the guests he's bringing onto his news show to make, quote, serious allegations against the popular creator? I'll let you, the viewers, decide that for yourselves, but this isn't the only dishonest tactic that Keemstar uses in this video. Halfway through the interview, he briefly mentions how the Caterino drama that I talked about earlier was faked, and that Carson wasn't actually in a relationship with Kate at the time.
The Caterina Fitz situation, I found that to be strange. You know, we were all led to believe that, you know, that Caterina cheated on Carson when, you know, come to find out they weren't even really together.
This is a prime example of poisoning the well. If you're unaware of what poisoning the well means, it's when someone brings up unfavorable but irrelevant information about their opponent in order to discredit any potential argument they might have. Essentially, it's when you paint someone in a bad light so that people are more inclined to believe what you have to say about that person. Keemstar is guilty of poisoning the well because the Caterino drama has nothing to do with these new allegations being made against Carson. The only reason he's bringing it up in this interview is to attack Carson's character. The question that he asks Noah in relation to the Caterino drama doesn't even further their conversation. Noah just affirms that he was told the same thing about the drama by other people.
We were all led to believe that, you know, that Caterina cheated on Carson when, you know, come to find out they weren't even really together, right?
That's what I was told.
As well.
Let me ask another question.
What a pointless fucking response. Also, notice how the video cuts to Keemstar asking a completely different question immediately afterwards.
That's what I was told.
As well.
Let me ask another question.
I don't know. That edit seems very suspicious to me. The next major issue that I have with Keemstar's video is with Travis's closing statements, where he tells Keemstar that he and the other members of Lunch Club had kept quiet about Carson's confession for so long because they didn't want to rush to any judgments, and were thinking of the best way for them to handle the situation.
I feel like the situation was just kind of like, he just told us all this, like, crazy thing, and we didn't want to make any rash judgment, so we kind of waited it out, thought of, like, we're trying to think of the best solution to do it.
So after spending several months mulling over how to come forward about this, Noah and Travis decided that their best option was to spill the beans on Drama Alert. Need I remind you that Keemstar has a history of making false pedophile allegations?
For example, in early 2016, he accused an elderly RuneScape streamer known as RS Glory and Gold of being a pedophile. What was his evidence? RS Glory and Gold's face looked similar to that of a convicted pedophile that Keemstar read about in the news. That was it.
Even if he did eventually apologize for getting the facts wrong, is this really the kind of guy that you would come forward to?
And no, this isn't me trying to poison the well against Keemstar, because his history of false pedophile allegations is absolutely relevant to this situation. If Noah and Travis truly believed that Carson was guilty of child grooming, which is effectively what they're accusing him of here, why would they make these allegations public on a show that's been criticized for making false allegations against people? That makes absolutely no sense, as it immediately throws the validity of these allegations into question, especially when neither of them present any evidence of their claims. This is the equivalent of an animal rights activist participating in an animal rights documentary that's being produced by a company with a history of abusing animals for their productions. You just don't do it because it makes people question your authenticity. In their defense, on Augie RFC's livestream, Noah revealed that Keemstar went to them first, not the other way around.
He didn't go to Keem. Keem came to us, actually. Or rather, Keem came to me.
However, when asked why he and Travis didn't break the news on their own platforms, Noah fell back on the "I didn't want a lawsuit" defense.
Why not come out yourself then, right?
Lawsuit. No evidence.
Noah also told Augie that he would have shared his story to whoever called him first, and that Keemstar just happened to be that first responder.
This has been eating you for 2 months or whatever, so you decide at any given opportunity you're going to come out about this. Keemstar comes to you or whatever. If it had been Scarce, it had been anyone else or whatever, you probably, I would assume, would have gone on their shows. It doesn't, what I'm saying is that for your sake, it doesn't matter what the platform is. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just whoever would have been the first one to ask me, I would have told them.
Even if I were to grant Noah these concessions, I think he's forgetting one crucial fact. It doesn't really matter where you make these allegations. It could have been in a Drama Alert video, it could have been in your own video, it could have even been in a damn YouTube comment. It doesn't matter. When you come out and say that Carson has been sexting with underage fans and you provide no evidence to your claims, then you have effectively slandered him, and Carson has every right to sue you as he does to sue Keemstar.
I think that Noah's lawsuit concerns are a flat-out excuse to mask the fact that he wouldn't come forward with these allegations on his own because he knows as well as I do that they are horse shit. I also believe he knew full well that Keemstar was the one drama YouTuber who wouldn't press him or Travis to provide any sufficient evidence of their claims against Carson before publicizing them. If you combine that with the fact that Drama Alert is a hugely successful channel with over 5 million subscribers, and that we live in an age where people are canceling celebrities for the most mundane shit, it makes perfect sense for Noah and Travis to take their allegations to Keemstar because it maximizes the amount of harm that they can do to Carson's career, as well as gives them an easy out in case people call them out on their bullshit. They can just argue, hey, Keemstar was the one who ran the story. It was his mistake not to ask us for evidence or provide any evidence himself.
Noah and Travis are snakes, plain and simple. However, of the two of them, I despise Noah a hell of a lot more. Why? Because he actually defended the initial Drama Alert video on Augie RFC's livestream, saying that Keemstar didn't mishandle the situation at all.
Is there anything that, like, you would want to clear up since the reception from yesterday's Keemstar episode?
Oh yeah, well, this is honestly like I'm not. I just noticed I got some pushback for saying that Keem did a good job with it, and I really just like I get why people have a problem with Keem, but at the same time, I really just do not feel like you could say this was something that he handled particularly poorly. I really just do not feel like you can say this was something that he handled particularly poorly.
I talked to some of his close friends.
Honestly, well, here's the thing: is if I'm being real with you, Carson was not my friend.
I haven't talked to him, so
I really just do not feel like you can say this was something that he handled particularly poorly.
The Katarina Fitz situation, I found that to be strange. You know, we were all led to believe that, you know, that Katarina cheated on Carson when, you know, come to find out they weren't even really together, right?
I really just do not feel like you can say this was something that he handled particularly poorly.
I understand the situation that everyone has been put into, but at the end of the day, you guys do kind of have proof, right?
I mean, yeah, that he told all of us at the same time. I mean, I'm sure that when this is posted, none of them are going to deny that this is the truth because, I mean, they were there. I don't think they have any real reason to lie.
Jesus Christ, Noah. At least Travis kept his fucking mouth shut after he stabbed Carson in the back. You, on the other hand, you're openly defending a man who called you Carson's close friend, even though, by your own admission, the two of you aren't friends at all. You're a piece of shit, dude. One last criticism I have for Keemstar's video is how fast it was rushed out. Not only did it come out before either of Carson's victims came forward, but Keemstar didn't even give Carson enough time to make a response to these allegations. He asked Carson for a statement mere hours before he uploaded the initial Drama Alert video on him, and he didn't do it solely through DMs either. He publicly added him on Twitter.
It was incredibly irresponsible for Keemstar to signal boost these allegations so soon, because not only does this mean he legally committed slander, but he's also painted the narrative that Carson is a pedophile who groomed minors. Sure, he may not have said so outright, but the implication is there, and as I've already mentioned, we live in a culture that's eager to end someone's career over any allegation that's made against them, no matter how factual the allegation actually is. This is evidenced by the massive amount of subscribers and Twitch followers that Carson lost after the Drama Alert video came out.
Keemstar is a hack. He cared more about the views that exposing a beloved content creator like Call Me Carson would bring him than he did about fact-checking the testimonies that he was being given. And that's pretty fucking disgusting if you ask me. The first person to come out against Call Me Carson was a Twitter user by the name of Miniborg, whose real name is Sam. In her Twitter thread, she makes two distinct allegations, that Call Me Carson is both a pedophile and a child groomer.
Grooming, pedophilia, Carson situation. I can personally come out and say that I've been groomed by Carson. I have talked to many people and never came out about this since now. At the time, I was 17 and still in high school. I jokingly tweeted at Carson, "Be my boyfriend" on my old account. He didn't reply to the tweet and went straight to my DMs. I don't have old screenshots, but I have Discord messages.
First things first, Call Me Carson is not a pedophile because he doesn't meet the definition of what a pedophile is.
According to Google, a pedophile is somebody who has a sexual attraction to prepubescent children, i.e. extremely young kids who have yet to go through puberty. Sam was 17 years old at the time of her interactions with Carson, which, going by the dates of their Discord messages, began in March of 2019. Carson himself was born on May 10th, 1999, which would make him 19 years old at the time of these events. Neither one of them were prepubescent children, they were teenagers. In fact, they were both within the age range of typical high school students. It's not like Carson was doing this shit in his mid-20s or mid-30s. If he were, then I'd have a problem with his behavior, but he wasn't.
That aside, there are plenty of 18 and 19-year-old seniors in high school who've dated people 2 or 3 years younger than them. This is a common occurrence, and nobody in their right mind would call any of the kids engaged in these relationships pedophiles because that would be fucking stupid. So why does Carson get the label thrown at him? Sam doesn't provide any evidence that Carson was sexting with younger fans, nor do her screenshots show that their relationship began when she was much younger. Hell, their relationship wasn't even remotely exploitive. At many points throughout their conversations, Carson makes it explicitly clear that he won't get sexual with Sam without her consent, and that he's perfectly fine just hanging out with her.
Well, we could just talk. No dating. No sexting. You can just message me and chat whenever.
That would be fine with me. We can just see what happens with us in the future, I guess.
What if we re-add on Snap, and next time you're horny we have some fun again? We should add back on Snap. What do you think?
Sounds good to me. But like I said, I don't want it to be just sexual, you know? I wouldn't mind calling and watching shit together or play something, you feel?
Yeah, I feel you. Just hit me up next time you're horny. I'll leave it up to you guys when we do sexual stuff.
I will, but I've been falling asleep mad early lately, so maybe we can call tonight and just talk?
What about?
Whatever. Keep getting to know each other maybe?
Fucking hell. I want to, but it's a bad idea. I'm not going to lie, I'm scared of getting your hopes up or something, but I'm willing to try. But it's such a bad idea. But so is sexting you. Fuck.
I mean, we could just try?
Yeah, sure.
Even just as friends or whatever. Watch a movie or some shit.
Yeah, I have a busy day today, but I should be able to.
Alright, sounds good. Just let me know, I'll be on my computer tonight.
He also expresses his concerns about her age and how he may not be able to give her the emotional support that she needs because of the legal hurdles of their relationship.
I'm scared I want to talk to you for the wrong reasons.
Elaborate.
What if I only want to talk to you for the sexual part of it? I don't want that. But like, I'm worried about it. What if subconsciously I'm only talking to you because it turns me on or something?
You might just be overthinking it maybe.
Yeah, but if I'm not, then I'll hurt you. And I don't want to hurt you more than I already have.
The thing is, I still really want to talk to you, and honestly it's worth it for me if I still get hurt.
How?
It just is.
You're also 17. And that gives me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, I don't know. I want a girlfriend, but I'm also scared about having a girlfriend. You're also 17 and a little bit more on the unstable side, which is why I think it would be good for you to have someone who can build you up, and then I also don't hurt you in any way. Do you agree?
I need to talk to a fan that just turned 17 that I'm interested in getting to know better, despite my own concerns given the circumstances of the situation and their own list of problems weighing it down.
How is this evidence of Carson being a pedophile? Because it seems to me like he's an incredibly genuine person who treated Sam with the utmost respect. Hell, even Sam herself tells Carson how wholesome their relationship has been.
Man, it's been so hard not messaging you. Hope all is well.
It's been hard not messaging you as well. I'm doing a lot better. Hope you're feeling good too. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it's been really fucking hard to not message you.
Why's that?
You're just really enjoyable to talk to and you're cute, so that makes it even better.
My feelings on this are a mess.
So are mine.
My brain keeps telling me I should stop talking to girls, period. Full stop. But here I am.
My brain is at the point of knowing this is wrong, but I really don't want to stop.
What makes you want it so badly?
Because you're an actual wholesome person that is enjoyable to talk to without me having to keep my emotions hidden.
I also find it very questionable that Sam left Carson's age out of her original tweet. It's almost as if she omitted that information so that she could make the situation seem worse than it actually was. And if there's anybody out there who still isn't convinced that Call Me Carson isn't a pedophile, this last bit of information is for you. Sam herself walked back that claim after Keemstar uploaded a video to Twitter where he argued that Carson wasn't a pedophile.
After watching Keem's new video, I realized I was in the wrong for calling Carson a pedophile. I used the word in the wrong context and would like to apologize. I'm sorry if I offended or hurt anyone by using the word incorrectly.
I really, really hate the internet.
Second thing second, Call Me Carson is not a child groomer. Grooming involves a pedophile establishing an emotional connection with a young child in order to coerce them into engaging in sexually exploitive behavior. Going by the messages that Sam leaked, there's no way that Carson meets any of the generally accepted criteria by which we classify grooming. He didn't leverage his popularity as a YouTuber to get nudes from her. He didn't try to isolate her from her friends and family. He didn't get her addicted to drugs or alcohol so he could use her addiction to manipulate her. He didn't threaten her to keep quiet about their situation in any way. And most importantly of all, Carson was not the one who contacted Sam. Sam was the one who contacted him, as she admits in her original Twitter thread.
I'm sorry, but a dumb, horny 19-year-old who hooks up with a dumb, horny 17-year-old is not a child groomer. And if anybody were to try and report Carson to the police, they would get laughed the fuck out of the station. There are actual predators out there who are grooming children online. And this is the shit that the internet is losing their minds over? A 2-year age gap? Jesus Christ. Next you guys are gonna tell me that if your partner doesn't share the same fucking birthday as you, then you're a pedophile.
What really pisses me off is that Sam had the gall to post this screenshot of the definition of grooming in her Twitter thread. Why does this piss me off so much? Because the definition she refers to contains the word pedophile, which implies that Carson is himself a pedophile, and as I've already explained, he isn't. Aside from that, the definition also clearly states that grooming is the act of preparing a child for a physical meeting with the intent of committing a sexual offense, and once again, that didn't happen either. In the messages themselves, Carson specifically asked Sam when she's going to turn 18. He even asked his friends for advice on how to pursue his relationship with Sam, citing her age as being one of his biggest concerns.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if Carson really were a pedophile intent on breaking the law, then why would he care so much about Sam being underage? Ignoring that, the age of consent in Carson's home state of Indiana is 16, so he wouldn't be guilty of any crime even if he had met Sam and had sex with her.
I think I've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Sam's allegations against Call Me Carson are absolute dog shit. As for Copycat's claims, I'm not going to be responding to them in great detail. There are 3 reasons for this. 1, the arguments that I made against Sam also apply to Copycat. The only 2 differences between their stories is that in Copycat's case, Carson was 20 instead of 19, and he reached out to her first. However, a 3-year age gap is no worse than a 2-year age gap, and the Snapchat messages that Copycat provided show no evidence of any blatant manipulation on Carson's end.
In fact, all I see is Carson trying to break things off with her in as easy and thoughtful a way as he can. Read these fucking messages and tell me if they scream pedophile or child groomer to you.
Hey, you there? I want to drop the sexual stuff entirely. It's been making me feel sick thinking about it. I feel wrong for having done it, and I feel like I've led you on. I enjoy talking to you and all, but it's just too much and I feel really guilty, so I'm sorry. I've also realized I have a crush on my friend Sarah, and I don't want to lead you on in any way. Tomorrow I'm starting my trip to California, and I think I need to just move on. I'm very stressed, and talking to you has been adding extra stress, and I'm very scared, and I feel bad about wanting to unad you. It's just all a lot right now, and I'm not sure talking to you is a good decision.
Wow, what an asshole.
2. Copycat has barely provided any evidence to back up her claims, save for the aforementioned messages that Carson sent to her on Snapchat.
Now, to be fair to Copycat, she does say that these messages from her Snapchat are the only ones she has left, and that the old Instagram account that Carson originally messaged her on was deleted. However, if this was really all of the evidence that she could provide, why are there a few texts that are cut off at the top of this screenshot? The only logical answer here is that there have to be more texts that she can show us, but simply isn't. For God's sake, she and Carson were dating one another for about a month. Do you honestly expect me to believe that out of the hundreds of potential messages she and Carson could have exchanged with each other on Snapchat while they were together, that these breakup texts are the only ones she can provide as evidence? I'm gonna call bullshit on that. 3. Copycat went radio silent after she made her allegation and initially locked her Twitter account before deleting it altogether. Sam herself also deleted her original Twitter account, then made a second account with the handle Small Peachy that she quickly locked and then deleted as well.
Ah yes, because as the Pro Jared situation has taught us, that is the mark of somebody who is telling nothing but the truth.
If we go to Chai's accusations, we can see that... Oh, never mind. He deleted his accusations. Well, that's okay, because we can still go to Charlie's Twitter, and we can see that... No, wait. They deleted theirs too. And for the record, they both deleted their tweets shortly after their narratives were questioned. You know, posted out there just long enough.
If this is the best evidence that Carson's accusers have, then they have nothing. However, a common argument that I've seen the anti-Carson crowd make is that even if he isn't a pedophile or a child groomer, he still exchanged nudes with Sam and Copycat, which makes him guilty of possession of child pornography. This is a stupid argument that comes from a gross misunderstanding of both why laws are written and how laws are enforced. Let me explain why. Yes, while it is technically true that Carson did break the federal law against child pornography, as the federal age of consent is 18, it's worth noting that the law is written with way older adults in mind, and it doesn't take into account new phenomena such as teen sexting. That's the reason why so many states have begun passing legislation that specifically deals with that matter, because state legislators recognize that the rigidness of federal laws against child pornography could potentially ruin the lives of people whose frontal lobes haven't even fully developed yet.
Speaking of state laws, Carson's home state of Indiana provides a specific defense that would protect him from being convicted of any federal charges. According to criminaldefenselawyer.com, a website which summarizes state and federal laws so that the average person can understand them, quote, "The law provides a defense to the above felony charges for consensual sexting between a young adult and minor. The defense applies to individuals in relationships who are close in age, for instance, a 17-year-old and 19-year-old. Basically, the law treats these relationships similar to adult relationships. The, quote, young adult relationship defense applies only if all the following are true. The offense was committed by a person younger than 22. The person receiving or depicted in the image consented to the conduct. The persons involved are close in age, not more than 4 years apart, and in a dating or ongoing personal relationship. The image was produced, stored, or shared using a smartphone, smart device, cell phone, or social networking website. The image is not distributed beyond the sender, receiver, and person depicted in the image or in violation of a court protection order."
Carson meets every criteria for this defense. 1. He was younger than 22 years old at the time of his interactions with both Sam and Copycat. 2. Sam and Copycat both consented to his behavior. 3. The age gap between the three of them was less than 4 years, and Carson was in an ongoing relationship with them. 4. Their nudes were exchanged on their phones via Snapchat. 5. There is no evidence that Carson sent Sam or Copycat's nudes to anybody else. Case fucking closed, Your Honor. Call me Carson is innocent.
Something that I've heard many people argue is that Carson was actually living in California when he was dating Salmon Copycat, not Indiana. And since California doesn't have Romeo and Juliet laws nor teen sexting laws, that means Carson would be guilty of both child grooming and possession of child pornography. Now, I don't honestly know if Carson actually was living in California when all of this went down, but for the sake of argument, let's assume that he was. He would still be innocent, and there's a very simple reason why. Just because something is illegal does not necessarily mean that it is immoral. Let me repeat that one more time. Just because something is illegal does not necessarily mean that it is immoral. For example, back in the 1940s and 50s, it used to be illegal in some states for white people to marry black people. Hell, gay marriage wasn't legalized until 2015. Don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing that we should ignore the law just because some laws are horrible, nor that it's okay for any and all adults to get sexually involved with minors. I'm saying that the law doesn't always get things right, and we need to carefully consider the context and intent behind a person's actions before we decide to ruin their life for doing something that nobody would give a shit about if that person wasn't a famous YouTuber, or if the genders were reversed, or if the parties involved were a little older. What Carson did wasn't wrong. It was stupid and irresponsible, but it wasn't wrong. Also, California law being so behind on the issue of teen sexting that it's possible for teenagers to go to jail and or be forced to register as sex offenders for life for sending nudes to other teenagers is not a good thing, you morons. After posting her allegations on Twitter, Sam would later tweet out, quote, "CP is illegal." However, when a few people pointed out that she too would go to jail for creating and distributing child pornography, Sam posted this screenshot of New Jersey's teen sexting laws, which state that minors who are caught sexting can, quote, "avoid prosecution under the New Jersey Endangering Welfare of Children law and will be required to attend a state-sponsored educational program geared towards educating minors about the dangers of sending these images."
Sam citing New Jersey's sexting laws in order to defend her actions leaves us with an interesting question. If it's okay for the victim to use state laws to argue her innocence instead of federal law, then shouldn't Carson be given that same benefit? I mean, that just seems totally fair to me.
If you aren't convinced that Carson hasn't done anything illegal, then allow me to share this fascinating tidbit with you. On every page related to the teen sexting laws that exist in each state, CriminalDefenseLawyer.com provides an important little warning of the federal penalties that teenagers could potentially face for their behavior. However, pay attention to what's written at the bottom of this warning. Quote, "Federal prosecution of juveniles for sexting could be unlikely. The Federal Juvenile Delinquency Act generally provides that, where possible, juveniles should be prosecuted in state, not federal courts."
So even if Carson's accusers were to go to the cops, or vice versa, the case would be handled by their respective states, which means that state laws would take precedence over federal law. And as I've argued, both Carson's state and Sam's state provide very solid legal defenses against any federal charges.
Don't get me wrong. I am not a lawyer, so I can't definitively say that Carson wouldn't be found guilty of any federal charges. However, I believe that prosecuting him would be a massive waste of time when there are people doing far worse shit than this. If you're going to argue that Carson should go to prison for sexting two 17-year-old girls, then Sam and Copycat should go to prison too, as they literally manufactured and distributed child pornography the second they took nudes and sent them to Carson.
Hey, while we're at it, anybody who smokes marijuana should also be thrown in prison, as that drug is illegal on a federal level. However, I doubt that any sane person would want stoners to go to jail for smoking pot any more than they would want teenagers to go to jail for being horny.
Hell, let's take this one step further. Here is a 2012 study that was done on the likelihood of teenagers and young adults going to jail for sexting. The study reviewed over 3,000 police cases related to underage sexting and found that, quote, an arrest occurred in 62% of cases with an adult involved, in 36% of the aggravated youth-only cases, and in 18% of the, quote, experimental cases, youth-only and no aggravating elements. Most of the images, 63%, were distributed by cell phone only and did not reach the internet. Sex offender registration applied in only a few unusual cases.
So even when these types of cases go to court, it's extremely unlikely for teenagers to face any serious punishment for sexting other teenagers. Granted, 3,000 cases is a relatively small sample size, and the study was done over a decade ago, but if Carson were really guilty of committing any sort of felony, then we would have heard of his arrest after his friend Slimesicle reported his ass to the police. Yeah, that apparently happened. Let's get into that.
On January 5th, another one of Carson's former friends named Slimesicle, also known as Charlie, went to Twitter and posted a screenshot of his 3-paragraph-long statement on the allegations against Carson. There are a tremendous amount of things wrong with Charlie's statement, and I'm going to respond to it point for point. Recently, 2 former Lunch Club members publicly alleged that Carson had been engaged in illegal activity with minors. To be clear, targeting a minor for grooming, sexting, and other inappropriate or unwanted sexual advances is illegal, and particularly disgusting if the person doing it is a YouTuber who has taken advantage of their fame to exploit young fans.
I've already explained that Carson isn't a groomer, but let's ignore that and focus on the latter half of that statement.
This right here is the first example of an argument that you're going to get a lot from the anti-Carson crowd, which is that Carson used his power as a YouTuber to manipulate Sam and Copycat into sending him nudes. This just isn't true. None of Sam nor Copycat's screenshots show any instance of him doing anything close to that. He doesn't promise them any exposure on his YouTube channel if they send him nudes. He doesn't belittle them and call them fake fans if they don't get sexual with him. And he doesn't threaten to sick his fan base on them if they come out about their relationship. What exploitation is going on here, Charlie? I'd love to see it.
Also, it's a little weird how Charlie basically implies that sexting is an example of an inappropriate or unwanted sexual advance. This is why it's important to word yourselves properly, people, lest you end up sounding really stupid.
My heart goes out to all of those who have been victims. I'm sorry you went through that and encourage you to tell someone about it and get the help you need. In an early 2020 phone call, Carson told all the Lunch Club members and our group manager that he had exchanged nudes with an unnamed girl he believed to be 17. Because I suspected a crime had been committed, I immediately reported this information to federal law enforcement, cut all ties to Carson, and withdrew completely from Lunch Club.
I actually have some amount of respect for Charlie. No, I'm not kidding. It takes a lot of balls to go to the police when you think that your friend is committing a crime. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to call bullshit on him, and it's because of the following claim.
Although the Lunch Club manager had asked about a final March drop... Wait, March drop? Don't you mean merch drop? Ugh, this statement is written so fucking poorly. Anyways, although the Lunch Club manager had asked about a final March drop or a goodbye video, I refused these because I no longer wanted to be associated with Carson or Lunch Club.
So, according to Charlie, Carson told everybody in Lunch Club that he had exchanged nudes with a girl who was 17. However, in his interview with Keemstar, Noah claims that Carson never gave out the specific ages of the girls he was sexting.
He told me that he did underage girls, and I think that he said that they were fans. And that was what I was told.
Did he tell you how old they were?
At the time, no.
Furthermore, when Noah went on Augie RFC's livestream, he said multiple times that Carson had been incredibly vague about what he had done, when this had happened, and what ages the girls were.
When he told me, he was very vague about the nature of what he actually did. He was very, there were no concrete numbers, there were no dates, and there was really, I didn't have any proof aside from his word.
On Drama Alert, I think the main criticism was that the ages were never discussed or whatever. Was there any reason why that was left out, or?
Because I didn't want to say something that was wrong, because like I said, the numbers kept changing.
Oh, so it's only recently it's been confirmed.
I don't even know if it's technically even been confirmed, is what I would say, because like for me, all I know is that I don't really know the specifics. I just know that it happened.
So you didn't know the ages on Drama Alert. You only found out when everyone else found out when the girls came out.
This is well, I mean, yeah, now I know for a fact that there were the two that were 17, but like I said, I was told 17 like 1 or 2 times, and different people had different information, so I was like, I'm not going to make like a hard and fast thing where I go, oh yeah, it was these 17-year-old girls, because I was like, dude, I don't fucking know, I can't certify that.
So which is it? Did Carson tell everybody in Lunch Club exactly what he had done and give out the specific ages of the girls he was sexting? Or did he keep that information vague in order to downplay what had happened? If Charlie's account of these events contradicts Noah's account of these events, then how can we trust either of them?
Second of all, Charlie claims that he cut ties with Carson as soon as Carson came clean about what he did, but that's a lie because on August 27th, 2020, Carson uploaded a video in which he hosted an online game show. Guess who was among the many contestants for the show that he rounded up? That's right, Slimesicle. Not only that, but at the beginning of the video, Carson also provided many of the DMs that he sent to the YouTubers he recruited in preparation for the game show, all of which were sent in June of 2020.
So about a month ago, I sat down and I said, I wanted to hold a game show, and I'm going to make it terrible. And so that's what I did. I sat down and I made a game show. I invited a bunch of your favorite YouTubers on and said, come on my game show.
Remember, Noah said that Carson came clean about sexing underage fans in March of 2020.
One day in March, he called me shortly before he told Travis. Everybody was up in LA and he told most of them face to face, but he called me and I picked up the phone and he was basically like, I have to tell you something. And then he told me that he did underage girls, and I think that he said that they were fans.
So let me get this straight. Charlie claims to have cut all ties with Carson in March, yet we have evidence of him being in a video with Carson that has been in production since June. If Charlie was willing to lie about such a major detail like this, then how can we believe that he actually went to the authorities? However, let's say for the sake of argument that Carson's game show was being prepared way before June. Charlie's claim would still be bullshit because in the 8 or so months since he's reported Carson to the authorities, literally nothing has fucking happened. We haven't heard any news of Carson's electronics being seized by the police or that Carson has been arrested, and I can't find a police report that Charlie supposedly filed on him at all. If somebody has a link to that, please share it with me because I would love to see it. Oh, and don't try to use the excuse that it takes a while for the police to do anything about these sort of reports, because that just isn't true. If you tell the police that you suspect that someone is in possession of child pornography, they will kick down that person's door without a second fucking thought.
But even if that isn't the case, that still wouldn't justify the fact that neither of Carson's accusers followed Charlie's example and filed their own reports on Carson. You heard me right. Neither of them went to the police about this. They went to Twitter instead. Sam and Copycat are beginning to sound less like victims and more like clout chasers. And if you think I'm being too uncharitable, then give me a good reason why they would choose to make this a public matter instead of a legal one.
Call me crazy, but if I felt like I had been groomed by a famous adult YouTuber, I'd go to my parents, or my school guidance counselor, or maybe, I don't know, the authorities, instead of going to Twitter. That's just my thinking though.
This statement is fucking stupid and filled with blatant lies. You would have an easier time convincing me that the earth was flat than that Charlie actually reported anyone to the police. The fact that anybody took this word vomit seriously is a testament to how easy it is to mislead people.
God, this year is going to be worse than last year, isn't it? Anyways, the final paragraph doesn't have anything worth responding to. Charlie just reiterates the same points that he made in the previous 2 paragraphs. Since there's nothing more to say, let's move on to JSchlatt's video.
JSchlatt was arguably one of Carson's closest friends, as well as one of the members of Lunch Club. The 6-minute video that he uploaded on January 6 in response to the allegations against Carson, which was simply titled Carson, is one that many people have pointed to as being the final nail in the coffin for Carson's career. However, much like the Drama Alert video that started this whole controversy, JSchlatt's video is riddled with baseless claims and dishonest arguments, and as such, I'm unable to take him very seriously. The first issue that I have with his video is with his account of Carson's confession.
Around late February, early March, Carson told the Lunch Club guys, as well as a bunch of close friends of his at the time, that he had been sexting his fans. He explained that he had exchanged photos with the 17-year-old while he was 19, and that he was done with it. He hadn't done it in months. He was ashamed of what he had done, and all that stuff.
So, according to JSchlatt, in late February/early March, Carson told everybody in Lunch Club, including some of his close friends, that he had sexted and exchanged nudes with a 17-year-old fan. Carson also claimed that this only happened once and that he was very ashamed of himself. There are 2 problems with that. One, much like with Slimesicle's account, JSchlatt's account of what happened directly contradicts Noah's account. Remember, according to Noah, Carson didn't specify the ages of the girls he was sexting with, and kept the nature of his actions as vague and mysterious as possible.
When he told me, he was very vague about the nature of what he actually did. He was very, there were no concrete numbers, there were no dates, and there was really, I didn't have any proof aside from his word.
This has got to be the worst game of telephone ever. 2 of Carson's friends said that Carson was transparent about his behavior, while one of them says that he was ambiguous about it. Either somebody is lying, or Noah must live on a different plane of existence.
JSchlatt spends the next 2 minutes talking about how Carson's confession came right before the Caterino incident happened, and that Carson's mental state was in the worst place it ever was after that scandal unfolded. He then talks about how he and Carson's other friends would be in constant contact with Carson as they tried to help him overcome his depression. I have nothing to add to this part of the video, so I want to skip to the part where JSchlatt talks about the conversations he had with both Carson's other friends and Carson's roommates.
A few weeks ago, I started having some conversations with some of Carson's closest friends, including his former roommates. And in my discussions with them, I heard some things that suggested that Carson wasn't improving in the areas that he should have been. And he was showing signs of continuing some of his inappropriate behavior. And apparently this was happening while I was spending all this time trying to help him. And while he was saying that he was working on himself and that he was changing and that he hates the person he used to be.
The second issue with JSchlatt's video is that he doesn't provide any evidence to back himself up. He doesn't show screenshots of text messages that he and Carson wrote to each other. He doesn't play clips of any of the calls they had. He doesn't give us anything to go by.
Give me the bullshit excuse that all of that stuff is private and would be inappropriate to leak onto the internet. If you're going to make a public YouTube video outing your friend for exhibiting horrible behavior, then this is no longer a private matter. You better show me some fucking receipts, or else I'm just not going to believe you.
These conversations were really the ones that got me second guessing how genuine Carson had been to me and to others throughout this whole thing. I remember me and Connor were in Austin at the time, and over a long-ass dinner, we just kind of put all the pieces together that we often ignored because of how close we were to him and because of how well he had always treated us. You know, there were always stories I'd hear from his roommates about how he treated them and how he generally just acted that I glossed over, and I shouldn't have.
Can you tell us some of those stories? Maybe provide more details than what you're letting on? No, of course you can't, because that would mean providing evidence of what you're talking about, and we can't have that. Better to just vaguely allude to Carson's horrible behavior instead of discussing it outright. That's just as good. Carson's an asshole, guys. Just trust me on that. The pieces were always out there. We just didn't see it until now. I'm sorry, J-Schlatt, but I don't know you all that well, and I don't know Carson all that well, so I'm not just gonna blindly accept whatever you tell me about Carson. Anybody can spin me a tale about someone being an asshole. I want receipts. I want evidence. And if you're not going to give me that, then what the fuck is the point of this video? I'll tell you what the point of it is, to backstab your friend by jumping on the hate train against him and use the situation to virtue signal about how much of a good person you are.
Also, seeing the DMs he exchanged with some of the girls that have come forward absolutely fucking disgusted me.
Oh, shut the fuck up, you moralizing piece of shit. Not only did you provide zero evidence of Carson lying about his behavior, but you're really going to call the DMs that he exchanged with Sam disgusting? Did you actually read the DMs?
All I know is every time I jack off now I have a really hard time not thinking of you. I guess my brain got stimulated and now it wants more, you know?
Sorry, I was in school, but yeah, I get that. Same with me.
Every time I go at it I just wanna give in again. You got me fucked up, Sam.
I'm sorry. Fuck.
Laugh my ass off.
You got me fucked up too. It's a mutual thing.
What if we re-add on Snap, and next time you're horny we have some fun again?
I just don't want that to be the only thing we do, you know?
Yeah, but fuck, Sam. You're hard to resist.
So are you. I feel like this is all my fault. Damn.
If anything, it's my fault because I can't control myself.
Neither can I. That's why I sent in the first place.
What part of these messages are disgusting exactly? These seem like the sort of things that horny teenagers text one another all the time. If you want to call them cringy, that's fine. But disgusting? Either J-Schlatt is the most sheltered pussy on the fucking planet, or he's actively trying to make what Carson did look worse by wording it in the least flattering light possible.
Up until yesterday, I thought that all these encounters Carson had were very much, spur-of-the-moment mistakes that he regretted instantly. That was very much the story that everybody was told. And knowing what we do now, it's simply just not the case. This was something he pursued. Looking back now, almost every step of the way, Carson tried to downplay what had actually happened. I remember a time when he even referred to the last time it had happened as like Q4 2019 instead of giving us an actual date. And dude, I'm shocked.
Seriously, how hard is it for you to show us one screenshot, my dude? You could have even said that the messages have all been deleted. At least then you would have an excuse for not showing us anything.
I can no longer say with any confidence that I believe Carson's behavior has ever stopped. I can't take his word for it anymore.
Funny you should say that when your own lack of evidence makes it incredibly difficult for me to believe what you're saying.
Also, you've gotta love the disingenuous wording on display here. I have no reason to believe that Carson's behavior ever stopped. What kind of behavior are you talking about, homie? Carson sexting underage fans? Or Carson being an asshole to his friends? Since you just finished talking about how Carson tried to downplay his behavior, I have to assume that you're talking about his sexting, but the fact that I have to ask this question at all is not a good thing.
When I came to this realization a few weeks ago, I'd cut ties with Carson and started talking to the other guys about how best to go about this. And I gotta hand it to Noah and Travis for stepping up and talking about it first.
If
for some reason, you were still treating Jay Schlatt as a credible source of information regarding Carson's behavior behind the scenes, then him praising Noah and Travis for exposing Carson on Drama Alert should be the point where you stop giving him that benefit. What should we be giving these guys credit for, Jay Schlatt? Not even knowing the ages of the girls that Carson was sexting?
Did he tell you how old they were?
At the time, no.
Not having a shred of evidence to back their claims up?
At the end of the day, you guys do kind of have proof, right?
I mean, yeah, that he told all of us at the same time.
You yourself said that Carson told you the exact ages of the girls he was sexting.
Around late February, early March, Carson told the Lunch Club guys, as well as a bunch of close friends of his at the time, that he had been sexting his fans. He explained that he had exchanged photos with the 17-year-old while he was 19.
This can only mean that Noah and Travis lied about crucial information regarding these allegations, and yet you're gonna go to bat for them, Jay Schlatt? Go to hell!
Hey Jay Schlatt, why the hell didn't you congratulate Slamsicle for going to the police? I'm pretty sure that man deserves some praise too.
Especially since he allegedly reported Carson to the police months before you bozos got off your asses and did anything about this.
Oh well, maybe he forgot.
I feel for all the victims here, and to know that that more people could have been hurt this year while Carson and I were friends, and while I continued to associate with him, and while I believe that he was on the right path, that fucking kills me, you know? I hope all of them have gotten and continue to get the help they need to get through this.
This part of the video angers me the most because Jay Schlatt does nothing more than virtue signal about how his heart goes out to all of the victims and how he hopes they all get the help they need. Upon finishing it, I can't help but be reminded of one joke from a certain episode of The Simpsons.
I'm sorry, I can't go on. That's okay. Your tears say more than real evidence ever could.
Man, I wish I knew what episode that clip came from. Maybe it's from the episode about false sexual harassment claims? Nah, that couldn't be it. That would just work far too well with this current situation. It has to be from a more innocuous episode. Maybe you guys can help me out with this one, huh? Tell me in the comment section below which episode of The Simpsons that clip came from. We need to get to the bottom of this. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I'm being sarcastic. That's because I can't be bothered to take any of this shit seriously anymore.
Because this is a recurring problem now of content creators who take complete advantage of and manipulate the people that care about them the most. I don't think Carson's a pedophile, but that's what he did. He used his power to repeatedly take advantage of vulnerable people. I don't know what causes this to happen. I don't know what compels content creators to do this, but it happens. And it's a big fucking problem. And as cliche as it is for me to say this, I really hope Carson gets the help that he very, very clearly needs as well.
Really, Jay Schlatt? You're going to claim that Carson contributes to the ongoing problem of YouTubers manipulating and abusing people as though you've definitively proven that he's actually done any of that shit? That's cute. You know what else is cute? The fact that Jay Schlatt waited until the very end of his video to tell us that he doesn't think Carson is a pedophile. I would think that that would be one of the very first things you would say in a video like this, considering that the pedophilia allegations are what landed Carson in hot water to begin with, but then again, I live in the real world, where allegations of pedophilia take precedence over allegations of somebody being a dick to you. This is the video that supposedly destroys Call Me Carson's reputation? Really? Jay Schlatt literally doesn't say anything that we didn't already know, and the new information that he does provide isn't backed up with any evidence whatsoever. This video was nothing more than 6 minutes of a guy playing Modern Warfare 3 while going on a vague rant about how much of a douchebag their friend is. Give Sam and Copycat credit. At least they provided screenshots that prove that they were in a relationship with Carson. Jay Schlatt doesn't have anything. He just expects you to take his word for it. If this is what I'm meant to be judging Carson by, then all I can say is that he has the shittiest friends ever.
move on.
Rebzilla is a popular drama YouTuber with over 1,500,000 subscribers. I had never heard of him before until his video covering the Call Me Carson allegations was recommended to me by YouTube. An interesting little fact that I'd like to point out is that the original title for this video was Call Me Carson Just Ended His Career, but Rebzilla has since changed it to Call Me Carson Really Messed Up. This is in spite of the fact that the video itself opens with a title card that still reads Call Me Carson Just Ended His Career. That's quite a weird alteration to make there, buddy. Anyways, as somebody who was heavily invested in this situation, I decided to give it a watch. Why wouldn't I? The video had tens of thousands of views, as well as an overwhelmingly positive reception. Surely Rebzilla must have brought substantial evidence against Carson, right?
Spoiler alert, he didn't. In fact, not only did Rebzilla contribute next to nothing to the conversation, but his video on Carson is by far the worst one that's ever been made on the situation. And considering how much I hated Jay Schlatt's video, that's saying a lot. Where do the problems with Rebzilla's video begin? Well, right at the fucking beginning.
Hey, welcome back into today's video. We're going to be talking about the Call Me Carson situation. Now, this is a very serious situation, but the dynamics are ethically very challenging.
First sentence! The dynamics are ethically challenging?
Am I alone in not knowing what the fuck that even means?
That is not a real sentence. That is some word vomit that a college student would add to their essay so that they could hit the 2,000 word requirement. Why don't you speak like an actual human being?
Now, if you're completely unfamiliar with Call Me Carson, he's a YouTuber with over 3.22 million subscribers. He's been accused of grooming an underage fan. Now, these accusations first came out on Twitter from a user that goes by the name Sam. She TWs it by saying grooming and the P word. She states that she was groomed by Carson while she was still in high school. She was 17 years old at the time. Now, Carson was the age of 19 years old. So the age gap within itself is 17 to 19. It's realistically a 2-year age gap.
Realistically, a 2-year age gap? Yeah, of course it's realistically a 2-year age gap. What else would it fucking be? Fantastically, it's a 2-year age gap. Scientifically, it's a 2-year age gap. Economically, it's a 2-year age gap.
Carson starts off by saying, "I'm scared, I want to talk to you for the wrong reasons." Now, that's obviously already not a good way to start off a conversation. He talks about how his brain is stimulated, and now every time he thinks of her, he does some things that we're personal things. We're not going to get into it.
How do you know that this message is how Carson started his relationship with Sam? If you're actually trying to say that this message is how he started that particular conversation, then you have to be more clear about that, because otherwise you're spreading misinformation that's going to give your audience the wrong impression.
How is that a bad way to start off a conversation? It seems to me like Carson is just being honest about his intentions and trying to relay how he genuinely feels to Sam so that she doesn't think he's an asshole. If that is a bad way to start off a conversation, then you must not have talked to another human being before, Rebzilla. And for the love of God, just say that Carson jerks off. Enough with this PC language bullshit. It's starting to piss me off.
Saying when she's in the mood just to hit him up, talking about how they could have went on a date, and then, when do you turn 18? And then he talks about having some type of fun on Snapchat. Now, this alludes to some not okay things, because you have to keep in mind that this girl is 17 years old, Carson, teenager himself, 19, but anyone under the age of 18, if you exchange inappropriate images at all, it's going to be against the law. That being said, yes, that means that if you have pictures of yourself under the age 18 explicitly, that's going to be against the law and considered not good material.
Okay, ignoring the vague wording on display here, I want to give Rebzilla a little bit of credit for stating that both Sam and Copycat could also face jail time for taking nudes and sending them to Carson. That's a fair point that I didn't expect him to make.
He talks a lot about how scared he is of having these conversations with her. And this in itself shows me that he understands that there's obviously a power dynamic, and there's obviously something wrong with the way that he's coming across. He's coming across with conversations of a nature that he feels, this is what gets me, that he feels is wrong.
How do you get that from these messages? Seriously, how are you drawing these conclusions?
Nowhere in this screenshot does Carson express any fears over the power dynamic that he is supposedly exploiting. In fact, there are many messages where Carson makes it clear that his biggest concern is with the legality of his relationship with Sam. This is the point where Repzilla loses all credibility with me. I don't believe that these messages prove that Carson was worried about the power dynamics of his relationship with Sam.
Even if I were to believe that it does, that still wouldn't make him guilty of anything, because once again, there's no evidence that Carson attempted to manipulate Sam into sending him nudes.
Reaching, my dude. There's no other way to put it.
Even lawyers agree, like, you should not have, even with the age gap being this way, and them being both teenagers, lawyers still state that it's a weird and difficult area, and that you just should not have any type of relationship with somebody under the ages of 18 years old.
While I agree with the legal advice that teenagers who are above the age of consent should wait before getting sexual with partners who are under the age of consent, the reality is that most teenagers are dumb and horny. Not only are their brains being pumped with hormones thanks to puberty, but their frontal lobes haven't even fully developed yet. These kids are not old enough to grasp the legal ramifications of their actions, so they're going to end up dating one another even if their relationship violates age of consent laws, because that's just in their nature. Plus, I've already argued that both Carson and his accusers have solid legal defenses for their actions, so even on that front, they would be fine. Again, if Carson was in his 30s or 40s, or if there was any evidence that he was exploiting these girls, then you could make a much stronger case that he's in both the legal and moral wrong.
However, because we're talking about two consensual relationships with a 2/3 year age gap between the parties involved, I don't think it's fair for Repzilla to make this appeal to the law. Sorry to sound like a broken record, but something being illegal doesn't necessarily make it immoral, and there's mountains of evidence that clears Carson of any serious wrongdoing. If you want to criticize him for being an irresponsible dumbass, go right ahead, but stop trying to blow things out of proportion.
I do think it's important to say that the age gap of 17 to 19 would not be considered the P word. It would not. I think it's really important to understand exactly what a P word is. Here's the definition. Read that, digest that. It's an attraction where an older adult or adolescent has a particular attraction towards a prepubescent child. 17 to 19 would not be considered this.
Wow, credit where credit is due. That's another good point made by Repzilla that I 100% agree with.
He follows that up by arguing that the biggest issue with Carson's situation is the exchanging of nudes.
In fact, the biggest concern of this situation, that being if there was inappropriate images exchanged or not.
However, as I've made perfectly clear by this point, Carson wouldn't get in trouble for that either unless he either shared the photos with anyone else or he kept them, and since there's no evidence that he's done either of those two things, this issue is a nothing burger.
Repzilla spends the next minute and a half of the video going through all of the information that's come out about the allegations that we've already covered by this point, so there's no need to respond to what he's saying here.
Then we get to his take on grooming, which is so impossibly dumb that it has to be heard to be believed.
Now we need to talk about if there was any grooming involved at all. The definition of grooming is the action of a P word preparing a child for a meeting, especially via internet chat rooms, with the intent of some not good things. Now this isn't specific to a P word. It can be preparing anyone for a certain action. It doesn't even have to be someone that's under the age of 18. It can be a fully grown person that's being manipulated by somebody else.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
I can't believe that I have to explain this to a grown-ass man, but grooming is not the act of manipulating any person, regardless of age, into doing something sexual. Grooming, as the dictionary itself explains, is the act of a pedophile befriending a child with the intention of committing a sexual offense. Rebzilla's definition is so incredibly vague that anybody could be called a groomer for simply coercing someone into having sex. Even if I were to buy that bullshit definition, the fact of the matter is that there simply isn't any evidence of Carson being a groomer. None of the messages that Sam leaked showcased any kind of manipulation, and nothing about their relationship was exploitive. God, I wish that I had a gun so that I could shoot myself in the head and end my suffering.
In this situation, it's very difficult to navigate this. I would say that there is a possibility that there could have been some type of grooming, but it could be a power dynamic influence. She was a fan, she was looking up to the person, so maybe she was doing specific actions just because she wanted to keep on talking to Carson. So for the sake of this video, let's say that she was groomed. There was obviously inappropriate conversations and exchanges with somebody under the ages of 18. While this could be stacked up to teenagers doing teenage things, these are not particular teenagers. It's a little bit different when Carson has such a big influence, because that's a big power dynamic.
So not only does Rebzilla admit that there isn't any hard evidence of Carson grooming anybody, but he also falls back on the "there's an unfair power dynamic that he's abusing" argument. For the millionth time, Carson did not abuse any power that he supposedly had, unless you want to make the argument that famous people shouldn't date their fans, and you do not want to make that argument, because I would destroy you on that front.
But we need to keep in mind the feelings of Sam. She obviously felt compelled to come out with her story because she felt some type of way. This way could have been like a mental struggle that she had deep within that resulted from this, and it was bad enough for her to feel like she wanted to keep this from happening to other people. That is a legitimate reason. I'm not going to fault her for coming out with her story. I think that she did the right thing by doing that, especially if she felt like she wanted to keep other young girls from going through this.
Wait a minute. There are people who have been criticizing Sam and Copycat for coming out against Carson? Do you have any evidence of this? Because this is the first time that I'm hearing about it. All of the criticism that I've seen being directed at Sam and Copycat has been about how their accusations are bullshit.
Besides that, if Sam truly did feel the need to make sure that no other girls would ever go through what she did, then why would she make these allegations on Twitter instead of going to the police? Why did she refuse to take responsibility for her own actions by using New Jersey's teen sexting laws to dismiss people who argued that she's just as guilty of breaking the law as Carson is? Why did she delete all of her Twitter accounts shortly after making her allegations, despite the majority of the internet being on her side?
These are not the actions of a courageous victim who wants to protect other women from a sexual predator. These are the actions of a liar who got called out on her bullshit and hid herself away from the rest of the internet to save face. I'm sorry, Rebzilla, but as the greatest philosopher of our age once said, facts don't care about your feelings.
You get into the gray area of also it's illegal in most areas if a person in a trusted position who has a large following is not supposed to engage in any type of relationship with someone under the age of 18. Does that bear anything in mind to this Carson situation, 19-year-old to 17-year-old? Maybe. And again, lawyers would have to look into that. It would be very, very dicey, very, very hard to determine things. It would take a lot of tact, a lot of look at this ethical dynamic.
Oh my god, he did it again! This nigga hit us with the ethical dynamic horseshit. I refuse to believe that anybody took this video seriously. And what's with the whole person in a trusted position argument? That only applies to people who are directly responsible for a person's well-being. We're talking parents, teachers, principals, guidance counselors, police officers, you know, actual authorities. What sort of power does Carson have that would make him a trusted authority exactly? The power to shut down Sam's Twitter account? I mean, come on.
Keep in mind that during one of their many conversations, Sam told Carson that they should stick to the plan of not talking to each other until she was 18. Yet, when Carson texted her the very next day to whine about how hard it was not talking to her, she decided to egg him on. She could have simply not responded to him or told him to fuck off. Hell, she could have even blocked him on both Discord and Snapchat if she wanted to. In the 2 years after their relationship ended, she could have told her parents about what Carson did if she genuinely thought he groomed her or gone to the police. Again, what the fuck was Carson gonna do to her if she had done that? Sick his fans on her? Sorry, but even if you dislike Carson, I don't think you could say that he'd do that. Sam had every avenue to distance herself from him, but she chose not to. And now she expects us to believe that she's some victim of child grooming? Give me a fucking break.
Forget all of that. Sam was the one who reached out to Carson. Have mercy, Repzilla. My brain can only take so much stupidity.
Sam's feelings about this situation are she doesn't want Carson to go to jail or be canceled. Now, this is also really dicey, too, because if there was any type of manipulation or any type of power dynamic used to pressure her, then a lot of times in situations, the person that was hurt begins to do this type of sympathizing with their abuser. Now, this is a very common thing in these types of situations, especially when Carson is saying that he wants to talk to her for the wrong reasons and that he knows it's wrong. So the argument of him creepy, absolutely 100%. This can't be argued with. He's definitely creepy.
Wow, Repzilla. Way to strip away Sam's agency by arguing that her not wanting Carson to go to prison could possibly be a symptom of her abuse, rather than how she legitimately feels about the situation. Not only that, but you argue that Carson is creepy based on one single exchange that he had with Sam, while ignoring the bevy of other screenshots that show how their relationship was far more innocuous.
Man, it's been so hard not messaging you. Hope all is well.
It's been hard not messaging you as well. I'm doing a lot better. Hope you are feeling good too. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it's been really fucking hard to not message you.
Why's that?
You're just really enjoyable to talk to and you're cute, so that makes it even better.
My feelings on this are a mess.
So are mine.
My brain keeps telling me I should stop talking to girls, period. Full stop. But here I am.
My brain is at the point of knowing this is wrong, but I really don't want to stop.
What makes you want it so badly?
Because you're an actual wholesome person that is enjoyable to talk to without me having to keep my emotions hidden.
The sheer dishonesty of this man is a sight to behold, I swear to God.
Is it the P word? Alright, now we don't have the evidence that suggests that. We just do not. Now, do we need to keep an eye on this guy? Do we need to talk about this? Do we need to bring this to light? Absolutely, because if he's done this with one girl, he may have done it with several others.
Even though there's no evidence that Call Me Carson is a pedophile, we still need to keep a lookout for him because he's a pedophile. That's essentially the argument being made here. I'm not even kidding.
Not too much longer after Sam came out with her story, I just heard late last night that a second girl has come forward. This is what I was afraid of. She goes by the name Copycat on Twitter, and in this situation, the age gap is even further. She was 17, just like Sam, but this time, Carson was 20.
Oh shit! Carson was a whole year older when he was sexting Copycat? This changes everything. Lock him up and throw away the key, boys. This guy's a pedophile. Once again, I'm being sarcastic.
Now you're gonna see as this video progresses, this trends, this is commonplace and shows signs that Carson has done this on multiple occasions.
Carson himself has only admitted to sexting 2 girls, and nobody else has come forward with any more allegations, so you can take your "this is proof of a trend" argument and shove it up your ass.
Repzilla spends the next half a minute going into the rest of the available information about Carson's allegations. There's nothing disagreeable with what he says here, but right afterwards, he gives us the worst take in the entire video.
Initially, when I first heard about this situation, it was trending on Twitter with Mini Lad. I'd been covering the Mini Lad situation very in depth. I did major interviews with the individuals involved. I suggest that you guys check that out so you can see just how similar this is.
Repzilla, you are a disgusting piece of shit. How dare you compare Call Me Carson to Mini Lad? Those two have nothing in common. Let's go over all of the ways in which they're different from one another.
1. Mini Lad was over 20 years old when he was sexting minors. 2. He lied about not knowing that one of the girls he was sexting was underage. 3. He tried to use his mental health as an excuse for his actions. 4. His victims have actual evidence of all of their claims. Copycat couldn't even show us anything more than a breakup text. 5. His victims haven't deleted their initial allegations, nor have they deleted or privated their Twitter accounts. How is Mini Lad's situation in any way comparable to Call Me Carson's situation?
That you would even try to make that argument makes me legitimately angry. Like, I've been playing up how pissed off I've been throughout this video, but I am genuinely upset right now. Carson better sue this motherfucker's ass, and if he has to start a GoFundMe campaign to do it, I will gladly donate to that cause.
There was a video that dropped last night. It was I'm pretty sure a lot of people haven't seen it, but it changed my whole perspective on the situation and made me realize that Carson did utilize his mental health in this situation. He was telling his friends what he did. He was telling them that he was very depressed, he was in a bad mental state, which he could very well have been. But when you take your mental health and you use it to distort the reality of the situation, to lie to your friends, how could you ever be trusted again? This is a little bit of what his friend said.
But a few weeks ago, I started having some conversations with some of Carson's closest friends, including his former roommates. And in my discussions with them, I heard some things that suggested that Carson wasn't improving in the areas that he should have been.
Oh, okay. So not only do you compare Call Me Carson to Mini Lad, but you also cite J-Schlatt's video as evidence against Carson. You know, the same video that has no evidence for any of its claims. Nice try, moron, but you're gonna have to give me more than that.
So specifically from what Carson said, and specifically from what she said, there 100% was an exchanging of inappropriate images, which that's prison time.
And as I've already said, both Carson and Sam have good legal defenses for their behavior, so neither one of them would face any jail time for exchanging nudes. Please stop pushing that bullshit narrative.
So my final thoughts on this are this. Call Me Carson very irresponsibly used his platform to do some not good things. And once you cross that threshold, once you use your platform in this manner, I don't think that you should be able to use your platform any longer.
So because Carson was in a consensual relationship with a girl who was 2 years younger than him, a relationship that is defended by the laws in his home state, he should be deplatformed? What? If anybody here shouldn't be allowed to use their platform, it's dipshits like you who spout misinformation and spread false allegations. Repzilla hasn't provided any evidence that Carson groomed either Sam or Copycat, and yet he's going to sit there and say that Carson shouldn't be platformed? Go fuck yourself. Grab a dildo that's made out of sandpaper and go to town on it, you pompous douchebag. Good lord, I can't believe people actually listen to what this guy says.
The narrator is a comedic commentator and yet another former friend of Call Me Carson. Just like Repzilla, I had never heard of him until YouTube recommended me his video about Carson. Unlike Repzilla, however, the narrator has an interesting history with Carson. He was one of the 3 hosts of the Solitary Confinement podcast, alongside Carson and fellow commentator Raccoon Eggs. SCP began in early 2017 and lasted for 26 episodes before ending under mysterious circumstances in mid-2018. While each of the hosts went on to do their own things, Narrator was the only one who never really got popular on YouTube. He's remained a relatively obscure figure whose channel barely has around 40,000 subscribers.
Flash forward to 2021.
On January 7th, 3 days after Drama Alert publicized the allegations against Call Me Carson, the narrator uploaded an hour-long video to YouTube under the title My Experience with Call Me Carson. The majority of the video consisted of a Twitch livestream that narrator had hosted shortly beforehand. In this livestream, he discussed Carson's supposedly toxic behavior towards him. Normally, I wouldn't even be covering this video because it has very little to do with the current allegations against Carson. However, there are many points within the video where narrator either contradicts or exaggerates his claims in order to make Carson look worse than he is, and if there's one thing I hate, it's a liar.
Because Narrator's video is an hour long, and I don't want my video to be any longer than it already is, I'm going to be skimming through it rather than addressing it point by point.
However, I am interested in doing a proper response to this video in the form of a live stream, so if you guys would be interested in that, then be sure to tell me so in the comments below.
Let's get started.
The first half of Narrator's video is about his experiences with Carson and the rest of his friends at VidCon 2018. According to Narrator, during his stay in Los Angeles, where the convention was hosted, he suffered constant manic breakdowns as a result of the difficulties he and his friends had in finding a place to stay, and that instead of calming him down or leaving him alone, Carson would harass him. This ongoing abuse culminated in Narrator getting so angry that he attempted to punch a mutual friend of theirs named Alltrive.
2018, in June, one of the last weeks of June, for SCP, since Carson was getting huge and Rack was already huge, we decided, hey, it'd be cool if we went to VidCon. So we get an Airbnb, and the Airbnb was a scam. I was flying in from Detroit to LA. And I got the first flight. So I was the first one there, and I found out that it was a scam and that we didn't have an Airbnb and that I had just flown in to LA for the first time ever flying anywhere, really, going on a vacation so far away from home, and I didn't have any kind of a plan. I didn't know what the fuck to do. So I was panicking because I had 4 hours where I was alone and there was nothing I could really do other than take my suitcase and go to VidCon again. And I was having a manic episode. This was like my first big trip. This was most of our first big trips. And we had to stay in a shitty motel next to a Denny's. And needless to say, a manic me wasn't really taking it very well. So the first day ends. It goes okay other than the Airbnb. Then the second day begins. And we wake up in the hotel room, and I'm starting to panic a bit again because we can't really afford to stay in, well, at least I couldn't. I didn't know about their financial situations. I don't know about their financial situation. I'm not that kind of guy, but we were all small, poor. So I was panicking because I can't afford a new flight home. I'm already here. Like, what the fuck's going on? So I was having a manic episode basically right when I woke up. When I say Carson doesn't turn off, he doesn't. Think about it like this. This is the best way I can sum it up for you guys. Think about when, your dad comes into your room and he's, reminding you, hey, do this and this and this, and you're like, okay, I got it. And then he gets mad at you, so he keeps, doing it, and he keeps reminding you, and it makes you mad because it's I get it, and he gets annoying. Multiply that by 1,000. And that's the situation that I was in because I was stressing out, and Carson was just making fun of me and just, instigating me in a manic state just to go more and more and just to get further onto the edge. And then Alltrive comes into the room, and Alltrive, I can't remember exactly what happened because I kind of went into tunnel vision, but Altrive doesn't really help this situation. Altrive had gotten me to the point where I had tried to get physical, and thankfully, I wasn't able to do anything. I was held back. But in that hotel room, and I'll never forget, trying to fucking punch Altrive to shut him up. And then I ended up punching the wall, and I think I threw a shoe at him too. I can't remember, or it hit the door.
Unfortunately, there are way too many holes in narrator's story for me to believe what he's saying.
First things first, narrator claims that he suffers from a couple of mental and neurological disorders, namely bipolar personality disorder and Asperger's syndrome.
For those of you who don't know, which is literally everybody, I have a couple, not screws loose, but I have BPD and Asperger's. I'm more adjusted now, but in 2017, 2016, 2018, I was pretty good, but not the best.
He even names two of the medications that he's taking for these conditions.
And so I had medication that I had to take, Lamictal and Concerta.
He also argues that he's had a history of going through manic episodes on SCP, and that both Carson and Raccoon Eggs should have been fully aware of how serious his mental health struggles were.
On SCP, I had many mental breakdowns that a lot of people thought were scripted, and they weren't, and they never were. And they had known because we had done the podcast for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and we were very good friends. So they knew full well the shit that I was going through, because I was going through a lot of shit.
The thing is, he says that back in 2018, he hadn't been officially diagnosed with bipolar personality disorder yet, and that even his doctors didn't know why he was suffering from frequent manic breakdowns.
I hadn't been officially diagnosed with BPD yet. I had just had MDD. So the doctors didn't even really know why I was going through these manic episodes.
He also argues that he didn't take the medications he was prescribed at the time during his trip to VidCon.
And I'm not on my meds at this point, and this is my fault. It doesn't excuse my behaviors during VidCon.
He also admits to playing up his own manic episodes as a joke himself.
I was stressing out, and Carson was just making fun of me. And Ezra, I've already forgiven him for this, but it's in his character to kind of at least first joke. And so at first, he didn't know that I was joking, because sometimes I do play it off as a bit.
How can we buy narrator's claim that Carson is this unsympathetic, borderline sociopathic asshole who abused him when his story is so goddamn inconsistent? By his own admission, he not only hadn't taken his medicine for his mental illnesses during his trip to VidCon, but he sometimes plays up his own manic breakdowns as a joke. If his own doctors didn't even know what was wrong with him at the time, then how does he expect us to believe that Carson, a dumb teenager, should have been able to instantly tell when he wasn't kidding around and treat him accordingly? Narrator's excuse is that there are supposedly ways to know when he's not joking.
There are ways that you can know when I'm legitimately having an episode.
However, that is such a weak argument because narrator doesn't give us any further details beyond that. What fucking signs are you referring to, my dude? Because, to me, it sounds like you just expect your friends to be mind readers. I hate to break it to you, but they're not. Like you yourself said, they were all young, sheltered kids who were going on their first ever big vacation by themselves.
It was like my first big trip. This was most of our first big trips.
It's not exactly like they were seasoned war veterans who have dealt with all kinds of horrific situations, so why is narrator holding Carson to such an impossibly high standard of behavior? It just doesn't make any sense.
To me, like narrator doesn't want to give Carson any benefit of the doubt or see things from his perspective. After all, Carson suffers from his own mental health problems, as several of his friends have testified, which probably wouldn't make him well equipped to deal with narrator's outbursts. Even if that wasn't the case though, what makes it so difficult for narrator to believe that Carson wasn't being purposefully malicious?
Furthermore, narrator's inability to provide any evidence of Carson's behavior aside from one 20-second joke video makes it that much harder for me to trust what he says. Without hard proof, narrator's story is just that, a story. It may be the truth, it may be a lie. Me personally, I think that he's lying, because his claims just don't add up from a logical point of view. As if that wasn't bad enough, his recollection of what happened at VidCon is clearly shaky.
Altrive comes into the room, and Altrive, I can't remember exactly what happened because I kind of went into tunnel vision. And I was extremely mad. And I think I threw a shoe at him too. I can't remember. Or it hit the door. So then after that, once I'm outside, everybody except for Ezra just like goes into the other hotel room and they lock the door. And I think they had my camera in there. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I just remember the door being locked, pissing me the hell off. And then after we met up with everybody, it was fine. The situation had tensed, or it had calmed down a bit. We decided, hey, I've never had In-N-Out before. Carson had never had In-N-Out before. I don't know if Rack did or not. And I don't think Noah had either. Or wait, no. I don't think Noah was there for that part. Later in that day, I have another manic episode just kind of stressing. Just stressing in general. I don't know exactly what it was, but Carson starts laughing at me. And he's like, what's wrong? You gonna cry? You look mad. And general shit like that. I don't remember the exact words because I've tried to actively suppress this.
Do you guys see why I'm so hesitant to use eyewitness testimonies as evidence against somebody? Most people do not have photographic memories, and there's a good chance that they'll either misremember or straight up fabricate certain parts of their stories. However, at the end of the day, this is a he said, she said situation, and while I may not believe narrator, I'll leave it up to you guys to decide for yourselves whether he's being truthful or not.
Now that we're done covering VidCon, let's move on.
The latter half of narrator's video goes over the end of the Solitary Confinement podcast. According to narrator, Carson had wanted to end the podcast for a while, but didn't tell anyone how he felt aside from Raccoon Eggs.
It wasn't until narrator asked when their next episode of the podcast was going to be filmed that he found out it was ending. While Carson's initial plan was to kick narrator out of the podcast, he instead decided to end the podcast entirely.
Carson apparently had wanted to end the podcast for a while, but he didn't tell me, and neither did Rack. But Rack's really bad at communicating, so whatever. So one day out of the blue, I call Carson, and I'm like, hey, when are we doing the next podcast? And this was a month after VidCon, and he's like, oh, we're ending it. Yeah, we're just going to end it. Well, at first, he didn't want to end it. He wanted to kick me off of the podcast when it was my fucking podcast in the first place. I created the channel. I created everything. But he had just decided it was his now.
As a show of force, Carson kicked narrator from the SCP Discord server and then hijacked both the SCP YouTube channel and all of its social media accounts. Apparently, this was all part of Carson's plan to kickstart SMP Live, which, for those who don't know, is an immensely popular Minecraft Let's Play series that Carson is most commonly associated with.
Backed up that first he wanted to kick me off, then it's just ending it by hijacking the YouTube account, the Twitter account, and the Instagram account, and the PayPal account. Virtually everything that he could take control of. And he kicked me from the Discord, so he was then the owner of the Discord. And what we didn't know at the time was this was his big move for something that I've been asked about every single day, or every other day for the past 3 fucking years. And Raccoon and Carson have been asked. This had all happened right before SMP Live started. I missed SMP Live by a month.
Anyhow, after Carson hijacked the SCP channel, he talked with narrator and Raccoon Eggs about how they were gonna announce the end of the podcast. They agreed to give themselves a week to figure out what their game plan was gonna be, but before that week was up, narrator and Raccoon Eggs were notified of a new video that was uploaded to the SCP channel. This video was titled SCP is Dead, and in it, Carson blamed the end of the podcast on narrator being a shitty person, insulted narrator a bunch of times, and lied about what happened at VidCon.
We talk about how we're going to end it. How are we going to let people know, hey, the podcast is ending. We had all decided, okay, we'll do something together. We'll give it a week. We'll think about it. We'll think, do we want to all make our own videos and then kind of stitch it together? Or do we want to make it a group video and be like, hey, mommy and daddy, we love you very much, but we just don't love each other anymore. Like, because we were still thinking, okay, joking or whatever. But it goes back to how Carson hijacked everything, because Raccoon Eggs and I were in a call one night just talking about, like, okay, we got to probably figure this out, whatever. And then magically, we get an alert on our phones, and we both look at them, and we see, the Solitary Confinement Podcast had just uploaded a video titled, SCP is Dead. Now, we didn't know anything about this. We had known nothing at all. So quickly, we watched the video. Essentially, what the video is, he hijacked the channel to say, hey, it's over, was because of me, because I was a shit human being, and that he's leaving, he wants to end the podcast, but it's entirely because of me. And he talks about VidCon in a way where it didn't happen.
Carson had also laid out plans for what he was going to do with the channel, plans that neither Narrator nor Raccoon Eggs had any knowledge about. However, Narrator was able to delete the video within 10 minutes because, unbeknownst to Carson, he still had access to the channel.
He also had said in that video that he was keeping the videos up, but he was turning it into a new podcast called Unzipped. He had originally planned on having it with Raccoon and Altrive, but he ended up turning it into a completely different thing with Altrive, River, and a couple other people. I think Josh was on it too. I don't know. If you remember Unzipped, that's what he wanted to do with SCP without discussing it with us. Once he uploads that, he doesn't know that I, being the account creator, I still have direct access to it. So I deleted that video within 10 minutes.
Narrator spends the next couple of minutes going over all of the messages that Carson sent to his friends about their beef, as well as DMs between him and Carson specifically, and basically hammers home the point that Carson backstabbed him and Raccoon Eggs. He argues that this was the reason why SCP ended and that he kept quiet about this, not only because his friends urged him to do so, but because he didn't want to make Carson look bad.
I wanted him to make a tweet addressing it, but I didn't want to make a big thing about it because I don't know who had told me, but I was told by quite a few close friends, be the bigger person about this. And so I did. So this is why the podcast ended, if you've been wondering. If anybody here has been wondering, why did the Solitary Confinement Podcast end? This is why it fucking ended. And I've kept my mouth shut about this so Carson doesn't look bad for a very fucking long time.
There are more than a couple of issues that I have with Narrator's version of the story. For starters, during the pre-recorded outro to his video, Narrator claims that Carson gaslighted all of their friends into hating him.
And to everyone I ever had the pleasure of being friends with online, thank you. And I'm sorry to any of you who now either hold negative opinions of me or just hate me because of Carson gaslighting you about me.
However, in actuality, none of the screenshots he provides us shows that this was the case. In fact, during his live stream, he states that Carson's friends were all critical of how he handled the breakup of SCP.
He had gone through everybody in his inner circle at the time, and they all told him, don't fucking do this. This is an awful idea. And he kind of just fucking ignored them and did it anyways.
Why don't we take this one step further and actually read the screenshots where Carson is allegedly gaslighting his friends about Narrator, huh? They don't want me to make the channel unzipped. Oh, that's fair. I understand that. Your fault for it splitting, and so you get to take all the glory. It's not about glory, it's everything about pride. What makes you think you can take the channel and leave if it's 33/33/33 owned? Also, by the way, I'd like some advice with the announcement video before I record it, because I want to give my honest feelings on the situation, and straight up say, I personally think Narrator is a terrible person, but my opinions towards him should not affect how you view him. Continue to support him in his endeavors. Well, that's not gonna leave you on speaking terms. Carson, please. Well, there's nothing we can do about it now. Narrator says I should make a tweet about you sabotaging him? Yeah, that's the worst idea I've ever fucking heard. Carson, you did not think to run it by them when you uploaded. You didn't run it by anyone. You uploaded it with literally no one's consent on a group effort. So yeah, you didn't think. Do I want speaking terms? Shit, I mean, good terms? You want good terms, but not speaking terms. LMAO. Sorry, I woke up and that was the first thing. I'm not screaming into the microphone, fuck off. See, here's the thing. If I'm not honest, I feel like I'm gonna be lying. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not going into specifics.
Where is this gaslighting that you're talking about, buddy? Because I don't see it. Speaking of those screenshots, Narrator admits that he has no idea where a lot of them came from.
Let me look over these screenshots real quick. I don't know exactly who provided some of them to me, because I don't know if they were in group chats. If you don't think that he sabotaged me, here's a screenshot that he took. Or no, I don't know if he took it. I got it. I think I got it from Josh. No, I didn't get it from Josh because I wasn't cool with Josh, but I got it from somebody. Whoever I got it to, thank you.
Does that sound incredibly dodgy to anyone else, or what? How can we be sure that these screenshots haven't been totally fabricated? And before somebody tries to argue that I'm being unfair to Narrator, I'd like to make one more point.
Among the many questionable claims that Narrator makes in this video is the assertion that Carson had tried to ruin his life by sicking his fanbase on him.
Pretty sure Carson trying to use his rapidly growing meme audience to ruin my life. I think that is my story. I think that is my story to tell.
His principal example of that is the SCP is Dead video that Carson uploaded. Narrator claims that that video is chock full of insults directed at him, and that Carson blamed the end of the podcast on him.
Essentially, what the video is, he hijacked the channel to say, hey, it's over, was because of me, because I was a shit human being, and he talks about VidCon in a way where it didn't happen, and I will never forget, he says, Narrator is a horrible human being, but go subscribe to him, to his very rapidly growing audience. He said, I hate Narrator as a person, I think he's a horrible human being, but go subscribe to him. Don't send any hate his way, also, I think he's a shit person. Here's him talking to All Tribe about how he doesn't want to be on speaking terms, just good terms. The bottom part where he says, see, here's the thing. If I'm not honest, I'm going to feel like I'm lying. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going into specifics. That's him talking about saying very publicly, hey, Narrator's a horrible fucking person, but go subscribe. But he's awful. Go subscribe. I hate him with all my guts. But hey, my growing audience of hundreds of thousands of people a month at that point, because he hadn't gotten to 1 million yet. Go subscribe to him. Go subscribe to this person that I fucking hate.
However, the actual video is nowhere near as bad as Narrator makes it out to be. For starters, at the beginning of the video, Carson accepts full responsibility for the Solitary Confinement podcast ending.
As of right now, the Solitary Confinement group is officially split up. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be confused and want to know what's happening, so I brought a whiteboard. The first thing you guys need to know is it's completely my fault. Do not blame anyone but me for the podcast ending. I personally took issue with some Narrator's actions, and that led to a waterfall of events to where we are now.
Not only that, but he even admits that the beef between him and Narrator was petty and urges his fans not to let his own personal opinions of Narrator influence how they see him.
Now, I personally think Narrator's a terrible person, but that should not in any way affect how you see him. Please continue to support him and don't let any petty behind-the-scenes problems affect how you see us. This stuff happens to everyone. It just so happens that this is a very public friendship.
If this is Carson's attempt at sabotaging somebody else's career, then he is really terrible at it. Narrator's claim that Carson lied about what happened at VidCon is also misleading because Carson's account of his trip to VidCon is so incredibly vague that I can't see what he was possibly trying to cover up.
So it all started with VidCon. The convention was great, we had a super fun time, but there were many instances where Narrator would do something that I would disagree with, and it would lead to a response from him that I would consider uncalled for.
Could you argue that he's downplaying what happened? Sure, but is he outright lying? No, he's not. Let's also not forget that Carson claims to have tried reaching out to Narrator while all of this shit was going down, only to be left on read.
About 2 days in, after I got back from my trip, Narrator tweeted on his personal Twitter account about how Rack and I had not kept him in the loop. So then I ended up sending a little instant message to Narrator, and I wanted to express my concern. I told him nothing had really changed with the podcast plans and that we were still kicking him, and he expressed his anger in being told he was kicked and also having my stream viewers know more about what was happening with the future of the podcast than him. I haven't personally spoken to Narrator since then. I tried hearing him out, but he didn't really send any more messages to me, so I just kind of assume we're not on speaking terms anymore.
Do you guys understand where I'm coming from now? Narrator's video is filled with blatant contradictions, if not outright lies, and one of the dumbest tangents in it is his argument about how people shouldn't criticize Carson's friends for not coming forward with the allegations against him sooner because of how influential Carson is as a content creator.
I want to stress so fucking much. The people who say that they've known about these allegations for a while, after hearing what I've said and knowing how fucking influential Carson has been for the past almost 3 years, before you make any hateful tweets or you have any ill will towards the people who potentially have been holding on to this information about these allegations since March, whoever wants to come forward, think about what you would do. Knowing how powerful he fucking is, think about how bad that could be, the stress that they're under. I just don't want to see anything where the people who knew get blamed because they took too long. Because you have no fucking idea. I don't have any idea. I can't even visualize how much fucking stress that they must have been under. He's made so many of your favorite content creators' careers. Don't fucking blame them for not going right out and saying shit. Thank you. That's all I want to fucking say.
I find it incredibly weird how Narrator paints Carson as being this Bill Cosby-esque figure on YouTube, when in actuality, he's nothing more than a popular Minecraft streamer. Ignoring that, we live in the post-Me Too world where sexual abuse victims of powerful people have been empowered to come forward more than ever before. Trying to excuse Carson's friends for not coming forward with these allegations sooner by saying you don't know how much stress they were under is fucking ridiculous.
Like I said to Repzilla, what power do you think Carson has in this situation? What could he possibly do to anyone who wants to out him for his horrible behavior? He hasn't shown any inclination to sick his fanbase on anyone who crosses him. In fact, he once did an entire live stream where he chewed out his stans for posting creepy shit about him and his friends. Can we stop acting like this guy is as malicious as millionaire Hollywood executives or politicians? Whether you like Carson or not, he is just a streamer. He's a popular streamer with a dedicated fan base, but he's still just a streamer. Even if I were to buy the idea that he is an abusive manipulator behind the scenes, does Narrator really think that not a single one of his friends would have been strong enough to expose Carson sooner? After all, Charlie was more than happy to supposedly report Carson to the authorities when he first heard about his activities. And Narrator, weren't you outspoken about how Carson tried to steal your podcast from you?
About 2 days in, after I got back from my trip, Narrator tweeted on his personal Twitter account about how Rack and I had not kept him in the loop. Now, personally, I don't think there was anything to keep him in the loop on, but these tweets led to many fans saying that Rack and I were acting like children.
Carson's power and influence kept his friends from exposing him sooner, you guys. That's why when he tried to fuck me over, I blasted him on Twitter almost immediately. Fuck off, asshole.
How popular my friend is, or if he helped me build my career. If he tells me that he's done something that I consider to be a crime, I'm exposing his ass because staying silent about it would make me an enabler of his actions. It's as simple as that. As terrible as the narrator's video is, I could overlook most of it, because like I said, this doesn't really have much of anything to do with Carson's allegations. However, there is one thing that the narrator does that pisses me off to no end, and it's the reason why I'm responding to him at all.
At the very beginning of the livestream, narrator says that while he's not going to talk about the child grooming allegations that were made against Carson, he believes them 100%. Why does he believe them? It's not because there's any evidence for them. Oh, no. It's because his friends told him that they're true.
I'm not going to address the allegations. I'm going to say that from what I've been told by multiple people who I would trust very deeply, that I believe them 100%. People who have no reason to lie to me have told me this. And I don't want to say much more about it because, again, I wasn't in Lunch Club. I wasn't directly involved. But these guys are my friends. The reason why I have no reason not to believe them and why I think that they are 100% telling the truth and why I'm 99.99999% sure that these aren't lies is because they've had to deal with Carson in a very similar way that I have.
What a weaselly little fucking snake!
Do you really not think that there's any reason for Carson's friends to lie about these allegations? I could think of 2 good reasons why they'd be willing to throw Carson under the bus. For instance, they could gain not only the respect of everyone on the internet, but plenty of subscribers as well for taking down a supposed child predator. That, or they might have some long-standing beef with Carson, and these allegations offer them the perfect opportunity to end Carson's career out of spite. In fact, I actually think that the latter is narrator's motivation, considering that he only released this video when the hate against Carson was at its peak, and claims that the reasons why he didn't come out with it sooner aren't important.
The video you're about to watch is from a stream I did a few days ago, right after the Drama Alert video came out, where I told a story that I've been waiting to tell the world for almost 3 years. There are many reasons I haven't been able to speak out before January 5th, 2021. But none of that matters right now.
If that doesn't sound suspicious as fuck to you, then hoo boy, have I got a bridge to sell you.
You wanna know why this makes narrator look so much worse in my eyes? Because he has been accused of child grooming himself!
Yep, that's right. On January 5th, the same day that narrator hosted his livestream about Call Me Carson, one former fan of his by the name of L composed a nearly 40-page Google Doc where they accused narrator of sexting minors. The document details the accounts of 2 former fans of narrator named Zirconi and Toy Teeth who were allegedly involved in a personal and sexual relationship with narrator when they were underage.
Oh, and by the way, the age gap between narrator and his accusers is way bigger than the ones between Carson and his accusers. Zirconi claimed that he was 13 and narrator was 18, while Toy Teeth claimed that he was 14 and narrator was 20. Just some food for thought.
Then, on January 15th, a second document was released that detailed even more of narrator's supposed transgressions, including a particularly damning allegation that he created a Twitter fan sign account for a minor named Scotty. Why is this damning? Because L claims that he used the account to spam pictures of his bare naked ass in the replies of Scotty's tweets, and she has the pictures to prove it. Narrator ran some serious damage control after these documents came out. He shut down the comment section on his Carson video, blocked anybody on Twitter who tried to link people to the Google Docs in his replies, and put out some really bad responses to the allegations.
Here he is criticizing the document for not having any evidence, which is really ironic considering that his own video about his experience with Carson has either no evidence at all or very shoddy evidence. Hey narrator, have you ever heard the one about not throwing stones when you live in a glass house? Here he is zeroing in on the fact that L wrongly claimed that narrator was once sent to the ER, when in fact it was his mother who was sent to the ER, which is dumb because even if L had gotten that detail wrong, which she admits she did, it has absolutely nothing to do with any of the serious allegations being made against him.
He then posted a thread on Twitter where he announced that he was going to be responding to the document in a live stream.
I'd like to take a moment here to remind you guys that when Carson's fans confronted him about Sam's allegations on Discord, Carson came right out and admitted to sexting her. He didn't try to lie about it or shift the goalpost to some other topic. He owned up to his behavior. Sure, he deleted his Discord server soon after this, but I find it hilarious that Carson handled his allegations way better than narrator did. It's almost like he isn't as bad a person as his friends say he is. But what would I know? I'm clearly just a Carson stan, right, narrator?
I know when I'm going to look on Twitter, I'm going to see Stannies either saying that it's fake, saying that they're lying and they're doing it for whatever.
Anyways, narrator never ended up doing a response stream, but he did post a tweet longer about his Google Doc. The thing is though, he only responded to Zirconi's allegations and ignored everything else that the doc brought up.
He then appeared on a 3-hour-long live stream that was hosted by a commentary YouTuber named Steve DeLive, where he attempted to debunk many of the claims made against him. However, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the tweet longer nor the live stream. No, it's not because narrator proves his innocence. It's because none of this has anything to do with Call Me Carson. Don't worry, I'll link to both narrator's tweet longer and Steve DeLive's livestream in case you want to hear narrator's side of the story, but as far as the allegations against narrator are concerned, I neither believe them nor disbelieve them. The only reason I'm bringing it up at all is to make one very simple point.
Try to use your friend's plight to gain some fucking clout, you might want to make sure that you don't have any skeletons in your own closet, you jackass.
Listen, I can't say for sure that Carson isn't a piece of shit who backstabbed his friends and sabotaged his old podcast. I don't know him personally, and I wasn't there for any of the drama that went down with SCP. Hell, I didn't even know that SCP was a thing until I watched narrator's video. However, even if Carson was/is an asshole, that alone shouldn't be enough for narrator to throw him under the bus the way he did. Being an asshole does not make you a pedophile or a child groomer, which is exactly what narrator accused Carson of being when he said that he had no reason to disbelieve the allegations against his former friend.
End this section of the video by insulting narrator, but there's only one quote that can accurately sum up who he is. And ironically enough, this one quote comes from none other than narrator's former friend himself, Call Me Carson.
Narrator, do you know what a thing called not being a bitch-ass drama queen is? You're a fucking ticking time bomb that needs to learn how to respond correctly when faced with situations like these. Call Me Carson has a game on his Steam lock called Pregnancy. Pregnancy is a game about a 14-year-old girl in Hungary where she is raped and gets pregnant and is looking for advice on her future pregnancy. He has clocked in 107 hours for a game you can beat in 40 minutes approximately. This isn't bullshit, by the way. This is literally his Steam account that he uses for his streams. It was first reported from the r/Call Me Carson group, but unfortunately, I was late to post the... Are you kidding me? Could you not even write the word link? I mean, come on. Did you not, look over this before you posted it? Whatever. As they have shut down after the allegations news came to light.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
One of the most popular theories that I've heard from defenders of Call Me Carson, such as Crows of Judgment and Sen, is that his friends had planned to cancel him, and they hinge on a set of DMs that another commentary YouTuber named BoBlax received from an anonymous source back in November of 2020. These DMs warned BoBlax to be on the lookout for, quote, certain pedo allegations coming out about a certain thick-necked individual in the coming months. When the allegations dropped, BoBlax was then told by this person to turn on notifications for Noah Hugbox's Twitter account.
Crows of Judgment also pointed to the recent creation of a new podcast starring Jay Schlatt, Slimesicle, and Ted Navision as further evidence of some foul play.
Personally, I don't really believe that Carson's friends plan to backstab him. Yes, it's definitely suspicious and scummy that they would start a new podcast so soon after they threw Carson under the bus, but there's not really any hard evidence that they plotted to bring Carson down.
Remember guys, we don't know who sent these DMs to BoBlax yet. This could have been some third party who isn't related to Carson at all. I know that sounds unlikely, but it's a legitimate possibility, and until we find out who sent these messages, or if these DMs are even real, this is circumstantial evidence at best.
However, considering that their stories regarding Carson have all been wildly inconsistent, and they've all lied about plenty of things, I wouldn't put it past them. Right now though, I'm gonna have to wait and see what other information might come out in the future before I make a judgment call.
Surprisingly, even though the allegations against Carson were made over 3 months ago, there have been very few major updates regarding them. Nevertheless, there are 2 recent developments that I'd still like to address. First things first, on March 1st, Sam's old Twitter account was reactivated, and the person running it posted a series of tweets where they recanted the allegations that Sam had made against Carson, and claimed that his friends had purposefully set him up. These tweets stirred up both sides of the Call Me Carson debate, because if they were coming from the real Sam, then they'd exonerate Carson completely. However, Keemstar soon reported that the real Sam DM'd Noah Hugbox on Twitter and told him that the Miniborb account was being run by an impersonator. By March 8th, the account was taken down again. I didn't really believe that this person was the real Sam anyways, mainly because they presented no evidence to back their claims up and refused to go onto a livestream with Crows of Judgment and explain themselves. This is why you should always be skeptical when people come out and make serious claims, because there's a good chance that they might be full of shit. What I'm going to be talking about next legitimately sickens me. On April 5th, somebody on Twitter went out and doxed Call Me Carson by posting a picture of his house. This probably doesn't need to be said, but the person who did this is a piece of shit. Even if you legitimately believe that Carson is a scummy person who abused his friends and groomed minors, doxing him is way out of fucking line. Not only are you putting his life in danger, but you're also putting the lives of his family in danger. As one of his former friends has confirmed, Carson has been living with his family ever since the allegations against him went public. What's worse than the fact that Call Me Carson was doxed is the fact that several people on Twitter actually defended the doxer. I'm not fucking kidding. Idiot after idiot argued that he deserved to get doxed because of the allegations that were made against him. Allegations that haven't even been fucking proven yet. The person who doxed Carson can go fuck themselves. And the same goes for anybody who defended their reprehensible actions. Get a fucking grip, people. There have been way more updates regarding Carson's situation since January 4th, but like I said earlier, most of it is inconsequential. If you're at all interested in catching up on the latest news for yourselves though, I highly recommend visiting the Call Me Carson 2 subreddit, which was created as a refuge for fans of Carson shortly after Carson's official subreddit was shut down. The mods there have posted a great info thread from which I grabbed quite a few of the screenshots and videos that I used in this video. I'll leave a link to that thread in the description down below.
Obviously, unless Call Me Carson posts his response video before this video goes up, I'm defending somebody without hearing their side of the story first. However, I genuinely don't believe that Carson is guilty of any serious wrongdoing. All of these accusations that were levied at him were blown completely out of proportion, and if the genders were reversed, nobody would be talking about this.
Don't get me wrong though. I'm also not saying that Carson is completely innocent. He has certainly made some major mistakes that are worthy of legitimate criticism. The two girls that he was sexting were minors, while he was an adult. In the eyes of the law, what he did was illegal, even if there was only a 2 to 3 year age gap between him and his accusers. There was a legitimate chance that he could have gone to jail for possessing child pornography and forced to register as a sex offender had Sam or Copycat turned him into the authorities. He should have been more responsible about who he gets into sexual relationships with. Oh, and if his friends are to be believed, then he shouldn't have tried to lie to them about the situation. If he was telling them that his relationship with Sam was a one-time mistake, then he shouldn't have gotten involved with Copycat. Those are all genuine fuck-ups on his part, and he's a shitty friend if he actually did try to downplay what happened. That being said though, his friends aren't exempt from any criticism either. They all mishandled these allegations in every fucking way imaginable, such as lying about what they knew, making claims about Carson that they refused to back up with any evidence, and using the situation to boost their own popularity. They may not have purposefully set Carson up to be cancelled, but my god have they acted in such a disingenuous manner throughout this goddamn shit show. Fuck each and every single one of them. When somebody comes forward and makes a serious allegation against another person, we should always be skeptical of them. That doesn't mean that we treat them like liars, it means that we treat the accused as innocent until proven guilty. Unfortunately, over the past few years, it seems like more and more people are content with throwing due process and rationality out of the window in favor of blindly ending the careers of others at the very moment that they're accused of something. And that's fucking dangerous. Not only do false allegations hurt real victims of sexual abuse, as it makes people more hesitant to believe those who come forward with any allegations in the future, but they also do legitimate harm to the people who've been falsely accused, as victims of false accusations could lose their careers or have their reputations forever stained. In some horrible cases, people who have gotten falsely accused of sexual abuse have even killed themselves over it. Allegations are a serious fucking matter, and they deserve to be handled seriously. By that, I mean victims should go to the police instead of going to social media, and their claims should be investigated, not believed wholeheartedly, because otherwise the mob might end up getting the wrong fucking person. Call Me Carson is innocent, and he didn't deserve to get cancelled. The allegations against him are bogus, and anybody that's called him a pedophile or a child groomer should be fucking ashamed of themselves. Carson, if you're watching this, know that I'm pulling for you to come out on top, buddy. Your friends may have abandoned you, but I won't.
I'm Alex the Critic, and I have nothing left to say. I'll see you guys next time.
Short steps, deep breath, everything is alright.